Another week, another episode of the A-List podcast. I'm Kwani A. Lunis, joined by, as always, Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn. Welcome to another week. A lot to talk about now that the regular season's over.
Yes.
Yeah, y'all doing good?
Let's get it, Kwani. Come on.
Let's get it. So they ended their season with a win over Memphis. First reaction to that regular season finale?
They handled their business. They did what they needed to do. But as much as you can feel good about the way they handled their business against Memphis, I don't care about Memphis. I'm all about the playoffs. I'm all about Brooklyn. I'm all about Kyrie, KD, Bruce Brown. Mm-hmm. Bring them. Let's go.
Well, the players did have some comments after that game. And as we head into this postseason, as you mentioned, Al Horford actually had some thoughts. Here's what he had to say.
I wouldn't have it any other way. It's about us this time of year. It's how we've been playing. It's the things that we need to do. Our identity defensively, on offense, playing at our pace, how we want. So it's about us.
So this seems to be a mantra in the locker room, I think, when you listen to what Peyton Pritchard had to say. We'll get to that sound in a second. But what was your reaction to Al's thoughts?
Go ahead, G.
Well, I do think that they're ready. I do think that it's been about them. I don't think that they're scared of Brooklyn. And I think that it's the right way to end the season. I think they wanted to play the right way. They wanted to finish the right way. And I think the way they played the last two games, even though they rested Al and Tatum against Milwaukee and playing the Bucks really hard down to the final minutes, a game they probably should have won, but they didn't score for the last 2.5 minutes. And that would have given them, and still would have been the same thing, the second seed, because, they came back and beat Memphis, beat the second and third team in Memphis and D-League guys and stuff, but they were able to take care of business. And now it's about them. It's, are you healthy? Yes. Are you playing your best basketball at the best point of the season? Yes. Like, you checked all the boxes. They didn't have any, last year when Jayson had that wrist injury and Kemba wasn't quite right, et cetera, et cetera. Like, this year, besides Robert, everybody's healthy. Robert's recovering. So I think as Al's right, like, it's all about the Celtics. It's all about them. They're in a really good place right now, and probably the best place they've been for postseason since the Big Three. Because if you remember, the two runs to the Eastern Conference Finals, there was injuries involved. Isaiah in 17, Kyrie in 18, and Gordon in 18, and that type of thing. So, they have had injuries throughout the postseason, for years. And this is as healthy, even though Robert Williams is out. It's a big part. But the fact that Brown and Tatum and Smart and Horford and, are all ready and feeling good, that says it's positive for the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, usually when we get to the playoffs and this team, there's always this, like, specter in the room, like, they could do this, but this is a problem. And I don't feel that way. I mean, obviously with Robert Williams, that's a big part of what this team is about. But if you look at the calendar, there's potential that Rob could be back for, like, Game 6 if he is returning at the earliest possible time. And if you can get him back, frankly, I'm not convinced this thing is going to go 6. I think the Celtics might be able to wrap this thing up in 5. But 6 is realistic. 6 is probably the safe money bet to make on this series. But I just think the Celtics are in a place now where they're looking at Brooklyn and they're thinking, like, y'all really not all that. I mean, if you think about this Brooklyn team defensively, if you don't score 120 points against Brooklyn, there's something wrong with your offense, because you're going to get plenty of opportunities to put up those numbers, because they're one of the worst defensive teams in the postseason that we're looking at. And as great as Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are, I mean, those guys can go out there and get you 80 points between them, and they can still catch a double-digit loss. Would not surprise me. They're that inept, and one of their key players, a guy that we love and especially in our hearts, Mr. Bobby. He probably should not have talked about how wide open things are on that line, that back line defensively for the Celtics with Robert Williams not being there.
You're talking
Bruce
about
Brown.
okay, sorry. I was
Not Bruce Brown, excuse me, Bruce Brown.
Okay.
Bruce Bowen was a really good
Brown?
defender back in the day.
Oh, Bobby Brown?
Did they sign Bruce Bowen to a 10-day?
Bobby Brown from Boston too, though. I mean,
That's true. That's the connection he was trying to make.
Like,
We're talking about the other BDB.
Did Bobby Brown say something?
Yeah.
Like, Bobby in more trouble now?
I can't stop.
Bobby is
You
Sherrod, don't put that on Bobby.
Right. Bobby didn't even do that. He just minded his business.
Bobby has been minding his business
all
for
Bobby
about
want to do is just rock with
10
you all night
years
long.
now.
That's all Bobby want to do.
I'm
He's going to
just
rock with
saying.
you all night long. That's
Yeah.
But
It's his
before we get to-
prerogative. It's his prerogative. So anyway,
Yeah. Before we get to Brown's comments, though, I think we should listen to what Peyton Pritchard had to say, spoiler alert, before they found out that they were going to play the Nets.
You know, I think because we're not trying to dodge anybody, we believe in ourselves. So go in and whoever we play, we're going to be ready.
No preference.
No, whoever we play, we play. We'll be ready.
All right, so we already know that they are going to match up against the Nets, but as you alluded to, Sherrod, be careful what you wish for. Did he even need to say that, do you think?
He didn't, but the way that he was speaking about it, there was a little edge to it. He was just like, play anybody. Like he was ready to put on the high tops and go out and ball like right after the press conference. I like that. He is one of many Celtics who are in a tremendously great place right now, not only with their game on the court, but also the mental game. Peyton Pritchard has always had confidence in himself, and he's made no secret about that. But there's a difference in him now that is a little bit scary if you're playing him. Like, he's playing with this irrational confidence that if you're going to play a team and you're going to match up with Kyrie Irving, you're going to need to have that in order to hold your own. Brooklyn, they're a good team. There's no question about it when you've got two players as dynamic as KD and Kyrie in the building. But that team is flawed. And in the playoffs, more than anything else, it exposes you for better, for worse. What you're great at, we're going to find out. What you're not great at, it will be exposed. And as I mentioned earlier, the fact that there's a decent chance that Rob Williams can be back for this series. Because, again, the timeline is clear that after 4 weeks, that's like right before Game 6 of the series. So it's not that out of the realm of possibility for him to pop back in and play a limited role. Because, again, I just think that if you're the Celtics, you're going to need all hands on deck to put these guys away. And then certainly if you're able to get Rob back, even if it's for a game or two, even if it's like 15, 20 minutes in a game, that is going to have an impact on your team.
Well, you alluded to Bruce Brown's comments, and KD actually his
Bobby
teammate,
Brown, Bruce
or Bobby Brown, depending on how you're feeling.
That fella from Boston, the Boston dude.
The Boston
BDB.
dude. So here's what I was about to say, Bobby. Here's what Bruce and KD, and here's also KD's response to his teammate.
What do you think the biggest key is to slowing the Celtics down?
I mean, we can't let Tatum get 50. We got to be physical with them. Now they don't have Robert Williams, so they have less of a presence in the paint, and we could attack Al Horford and Theis. So them not having Robert Williams is huge. What did he say? All right, man. That's caffeine probably talking. Take some before the game. They got them two dudes. You can do the same stuff. It ain't gonna be that easy. I'll tell you that.
I know you were maybe half joking with the Bruce comment, but just when you come in, that bothers you. Why that comment?
I mean, we respect our opponents. It's like we don't need to talk about, what we gonna do to them. Like, I just don't like that, But that's just how Bruce is. He comes in and he says that, he keeps the same energy throughout the whole season. So, but yeah, like, we don't need to say shit like that. Let's just go out there and hoop.
So this was interesting because it's clear that there are two people in the same locker group that have different mentalities, like you mentioned, with Peyton Pritchard coming mentally at the game from the Celtics end of the court. And then you have Bruce Brown. He has that similar mentality of, not necessarily talking trash, but feeling as though he needs to put the Celtics on notice. Of course, KD had the opposite mentality of saying, let's chill. They're still a good team. Like, let's recognize the game for what it is. So what do you think the Nets are, how are they going to enter into this playoff series against the Celtics, really?
You got a G.
Well, I think the Nets are a very confident bunch. You have two of the top, players in the world in Kyrie and Durant. So that gives you confidence. And I think they get along. The guys have their roles. I mean, Bruce Brown is that kind of like wild card Swiss Army knife guy who defends. He can hit the occasional three. He slashes to the basket. He can dive into the paint, make a little floater. So he has really expanded his game. That's helped. You've got the two premium shooters in Patty Mills, who's been up and down this year, and Seth Curry, who's fighting an ankle injury. Then you got the big man in the middle, Andre Drummond, who's playing like he was with the Pistons, where he was a real factor. The game kind of pushed him aside for a couple of years, where it was like, well, he gets all these empty stats, he doesn't really defend, and all. And he's not a great defender, but he's still a factor in the paint, and he's getting more playing time. And so I think that they're a solid ball club. And so I think they're entering this series with a load of confidence, knowing that they feel like they can play with the Celtics. And if you look at the game a month ago, whatever, in Boston, it was only 126-120, and Tatum needed 54 points. So I think they look and say, listen, we tighten up our defense on Tatum. There's no Robert Williams. We can play toe-to-toe with these guys. I think the Nets know that they're a flawed team. They know they're not a great defensive team. So I think the Celtics are just going to have to play, obviously, very sound basketball. I mean, I was at the game against the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers had 20, 30 chances to win this game. I mean, they just couldn't hit a shot. If I'm looking here, the quartet of Okoro, Markkanen, LeVert, and Jetty Osman were 9 for 33. Like, they just could not hit open shots. I mean, Markkanen was 5 for 14. LeVert, who was supposed to be the guy that, like, their hired gun to help out Darius Garland, was 4 for 12. Like, and these were not contested. Like, this was not great Nets defense. This was missing shots, missing layups, missing floaters. So if the Celtics can play efficiently on the offensive side of the ball, I think they have every reason to think they win the series. But I think the Nets feel like, listen, we still won in Boston. We bring it back home. We play well at home. Kyrie is now comfortable at home. He comes back to his home fans, a great environment. They feel like they can win the series in 6. So the Celtics are going to have to fight hard. I mean, this is what they asked for. They could have played Toronto. They won. The Chicago thing wasn't going to happen. They missed out on the number 1 seed because Cleveland does not look like they're going to give Miami, or whoever comes out is going to give Miami any, especially Cleveland. Cleveland just looks like they're done. They're just tired. But yet they had a chance to beat the Nets. The Nets scored 40 points in the first quarter, 65 the rest of the way. And there was time they just lost interest in the game. Like, they were just like, come on back, rally on us, Cleveland, rally. They're up 22. Cleveland cut it to 6 and had an open 3, missed it, which could have made things real interesting. So if you're the Celtics, you're looking at that game, and I look at it, obviously seen the Celtics all year, but also look at the Nets. The Nets did not just stomp Cleveland. And as Barkley said that's an average team, and the Nets needed like 2 consecutive KD jumpers in the last 2 minutes to kind of seal it. Like, they needed KD to be like, all right, damn, I was hoping to get a rest. Let me get him off this bench, hit a couple 17-footers in your face. Okay, we done? We good? Okay, guys, KD's 33, right? Kyrie's 30. So these guys aren't, they got miles on them. Can they carry this team through a 7-game series with a bunch of young guys? But they think they can. And I think what Bruce Brown showed, shoot, they ain't got Robert Williams. Theis gonna enter the game with 2 damn fouls. So, we think we can score on Theis and Horford. So, yeah, like we got confidence. He basically said it. Now, I think Ime was going to come with some game plans to accentuate that, to bring Drummond away from the basket. Claxton, they've neutralized him over the years. So, but the Nets feel like we can win this series in 6.
I am glad they feel that way, but I mean, the eye test tells me differently. Their defense is putrid, point blank. It is absolute trash. Monday through Sunday, not even no days off for that defense. And to me, that's what this really comes down to. I mean, the Celtics literally have to just be average offensively and play the way that they've been playing for the last 2 weeks, and they win this thing in 5 or 6 games. That Brooklyn defense we knew that they weren't very good, but no one thought they were this bad. I mean, 120 points should be like an average game against them defensively. And for the Celtics, the problem that Bruce Brown doesn't really acknowledge is that the Celtics perimeter defenders do a pretty good job of making sure your ass don't get to the paint. And so as much as you love the idea of not having to deal with Robert Williams roaming the paint, you got to get there first. And Marcus Smart, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard, who I've been pleasantly surprised at how scrappy he's been defensively. He ain't locking nobody up, but he's done a pretty good job of keeping his body between you, the ball handler, and the rim. And that's all you want. That's all you can expect. And he's been low-key a surprisingly good offensive rebounder. I don't know how the hell he does that. I mean, he's literally the littlest dude on the court, and somehow multiple offensive rebounds wind up in his damn hands. So I am less confident that Brooklyn can get it together offensively against the Celtics defense, and very confident and very bullish on Boston's offense having their way against a team that is just not there defensively. I mean, as Gary pointed out, I mean, if Cleveland didn't miss so many damn easy shots, they win that game. They win that game probably by double digits. And Kevin Durant and that's the thing about this Brooklyn team that's a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. Kevin Durant can play well, Kyrie can play well, and they can still lose by double digits. No one will be shocked if that happens. And that, to me, is the scary part if you're Brooklyn, that you don't want to admit that even when you play your best, if they're playing their best, you're going to lose. Point blank.
Here's the thing. Very fascinating stat from last night's game. Very, very, very fascinating.
We'll be the judge of that, Gary Washburn.
Yeah, let us hear it. Okay,
very, 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 very fascinating stat.
You're going to love this one. Y'all going to love this one. Let me show y'all going to love this.
Of the 24 baskets scored by players other than Durant and Irving, 23 of those were assisted by Durant or Irving, okay? They combined for 23 of the team's 33 assists. Okay, so Bruce Brown had 8. So basically, Durant and Irving are playmakers, and they're setting up their teammates with buckets. Now, that's a good thing and a bad thing, that they're not only relying on Irving and Durant for points, they're also relying for them to be playmakers. That's a lot of responsibility. Okay, Seth Curry went 0 for 4 in 34 minutes. He's not healthy. Okay. Now, will 4 days off, and will he be ready? I fully expect him to be ready for game 1 in terms of like ready to hit some threes, because he's always played well against the Celtics. But if you look at this bench, they played 9 deep. Kessler Edwards literally is there, I would say, Romeo Langford from last year. Okay. He took 5 shots, missed all 5 in 8 minutes. They're playing 8 players basically. Claxton played 29 minutes, had a nice game, 13 and 9, but he was a -2. Okay. Dragic played 10 minutes. He's coming off COVID. Patty Mills played 17 minutes. Like, they are really, really, really relying on Irving and Durant. Like, really, a whole bunch. Drummond only played 19 minutes. He had 16 points, 8 rebounds, but obviously Steve Nash saw something where it's like, I can't have this dude in the game. He played Claxton the other center minutes, Claxton was a -2. So to me, they have to stop not only Durant and Irving as scorers, but playmakers. Like, don't let them go for KD had 25 points, 11 assists. Irving, 34 points, 12 assists. Like that's you got to give up. You can give up one, you can't give up both.
Yeah.
Right? You can't let them go for 59 points and 23 assists. Like that's a recipe for defeat. Okay? Because they're setting up their teammates, but it is a lot. Can they do that for 7 games? Can they do that deep into a series? That's the fascinating question. Okay, because without Curry, and then Mills has been real streaky. You know, he's not been the Patty Mills that we've seen over the years quite this year. You know, Bruce Brown had a very good game, guys. He took 19 shots. He was 8 for 19. Bruce Brown wasn't that good. Bruce Brown took more shots than KD and Irving. Okay, so I'm just examining. This is the Brooklyn that we know, because the game a month ago, you know, you can go off that, but that was the only real game. The one in Boston, you can kind of go off and say, okay, that's Brooklyn. But they had James Johnson. They were playing LaMarcus Aldridge. They were playing a little bit of Blake Griffin. James Johnson gone. Aldridge did not play last night. Neither did Blake Griffin. They just cheerleaders now. This is the 9. Claxton, Edwards, Dragic, and Mills, in addition to the starters that they're going with. So, and who knows, Steve Nash can pull out a wrinkle. But I just think that if Durant and Irving become scorers and playmakers in the same game, that's bad news for the Celtics. Make them both scorers, or they've got to take it one-on-one. Don't let them 23 assists for them on 45 made baskets for the team. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, and that's great production from those guys, but you can't have them do both if you're the Celtics.
Another factor that we should consider is the fact that Kyrie Irving is practicing fasting for Ramadan. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily affecting his game. Like you mentioned, he was still able to drop that double-double, but I think it's something to consider. And I believe Jaylen Brown might be as well. So I think just like that off the court aspect is definitely something to consider when you think about the performance of this team and how they're going to physically be able to show up. But to your point, if they can't score on a nightly basis, then that's all Brooklyn has. What would you say is, I know you mentioned the concern, but what would you say is something that you are scared of, so to speak, for the Celtics though, despite the weaknesses that the Nets have?
My biggest fear is Tatum not being healthy. I think as long as Tatum is able to play the way he is capable of and focused on doing, I don't see how they lose this series. He's that good. He's elevated to that level of superstardom, and he is a major matchup problem for them. Because, you know, when they go small and they go like those 3-guard lineups, somebody got to match up with Jaylen Brown. Somebody got to match up with Tatum. And 9 times out of 10, that's the player that the Celtics are going to go to, because that'll be the mismatch. And so I just think that the Celtics have too many ways to counter whatever the Brooklyn Nets are doing that's working. The only thing that Brooklyn has working for them is Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, who are both amazing players and can absolutely put a team on their back and carry them to victory. But I just think the gap in overall talent that Boston has as a whole over Brooklyn is too much of a gulf exists for Brooklyn to overcome that and get this series. I just don't see it happening.
My biggest concern is the Celtics get into a kind of a shooting match with these guys, and then they got one of those games where they're like 8 for 42 from the 3-point line. You know, I mean, that's going to happen. It could happen, right? Like, they've got to hit threes. Peyton's got to hit threes. Like, they've got to be efficient offensively, because Brooklyn is going to score. When you have 2 prolific scorers, guys who can get to the free throw line, guys, I mean, Irving hit his first 12 shots against Cleveland. You know, Durant had 25 in a light night. It was 16. He only took 2 threes. You know, so they combined for 59 points. Like, they're going to put up numbers. And Irving is going to be motivated to play in Boston. He is healthy and probably the first time he's entered a postseason. And last year he sprained his ankle, but he's completely apparently healthy. He's drama-free. He can play without being vaccinated. So now he can just concentrate on ball. Durant is always going to be a problem. He's one of the great scorers that the game has ever seen. So my fear, if you're the Celtic, is missing, like having one of those nights where they shoot 39% or 36%, and then having to either rally to come back, or they're relying on the three ball too much, or Tatum gets into this like, oh, you going to do that, KD? Okay, I got you here. I'm going to take this step back three against three defenders. Like, none of that. Pass the ball, make the right play. And I think the new Ime system, this first playoff series under Udoka, I don't think they're going to go through some of the bad habits they did in previous playoff series. But my biggest fear is they come up in two, they come out a little flat for game one and lose game one, and suddenly Brooklyn's like, oh, we got home court advantage. It's our series. They're going to have to win maybe 2 games in Brooklyn to take this. Like, you got to punch first. Like, punch first. And they're going to be hard to knock out because you got Durant and Irving. Both of them dudes coming with motivation. Durant is coming with, I'm still the best MF on the earth. And I know Jayson Tatum is good and all that, but he's a youngin'. I'm still the man. Irving is like, I want to show Boston what they missing. I'm mad for whatever reason. You know, I'm mad at Boston. You know, they criticize me because I've just made a decision for my family. Whatever rationale Kyrie has, because it's always going to be, he's not going to come out the guilty one in this. He's always going to be like, it was y'all. It was something else. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Boston.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. So he's going to have motivation. You play 2 real motivated all-time great players. That's always a dangerous combination. Is Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum step up to the table? Is Jaylen Brown ready to take over the fourth quarter when they're blitzing Jayson? Are other guys ready to hit shots? Is Derek White ready to step up in his first real playoff series? You know, like, he's been in the playoffs before, but I'm talking about, like, not, you know, you're not the 8 playing the 1. I'm talking about you're a cog on a contender. Is he ready? Is Peyton ready? Is Naren Nesmith ready to give him a couple minutes here and there? Is Tyson Horford ready? Like, are they ready for this? That's my biggest concern, that they get caught slipping one of these games and suddenly they're behind in the series, and now they got a must win, or they got to win 2 in Brooklyn. I'm not saying they're capable, but they can make this a difficult series if they're flat.
Yeah. And that's the thing that they have to be so on guard for, is to make sure that they come out with the right focus and energy and attention to detail that they're going to need in this series. Because, again, if they simply do the job that they're capable of doing, this series doesn't go 5, maybe 6 games, but definitely not 7. And I think that they will come out and handle their business. I just think, as motivated as they are, and I'm talking about KD and I'm talking about Kyrie, the Celtics got something to prove too. I think Tatum, particularly when you think back to how last year ended, and what some of the things that he was able to do and not able to do in the playoffs, Tatum is without question motivated to bounce back this year. Same thing with Jaylen Brown. You know, last year was the first time in Tatum's career where he didn't get out of the first round. And I think, Gary, you asked him about that in a post-game press conference, if he was pissed about it, and he made it pretty clear. Yeah, hell, he was pissed about it. So they're going to be, I think, the Celtics very locked in and focused. And again, I think the safe money is to go with the Celtics in 6, but my spidey sense is telling me that they may wrap this thing up in 5.
We talked about Robert Williams a little bit earlier, and Woj reportedly just said that he thinks that there is a very high possibility of Robert Williams returning for this Nets series. And as Gary mentioned, they shouldn't bet on that because they still will have to be able to get to even a series that long. But if Robert Williams does return, Woj also mentioned that he's hit all these benchmarks that he's needed to so far. Game 6 would actually fall on the exact month of when he had that meniscus surgery. So again, the possibility is high. Should the Celtics even be thinking about that, or should they just wait to potentially get to the second round?
look, if he's able to roll out there and do Rob Williams type things, damn it, you put him out there. You cannot. Tomorrow is not promised. You got to take care of business today to get to tomorrow. You can't assume that since we up 3-2, we're good, Rob. You just sit back and drink some Mai Tais and chill on that bench, and we got this. No, hell no. We need to get you out there doing what you do. And I think they will. And again, when you look at the timetable, Rob coming back near the end of the series is about the earliest he could theoretically come back, based upon the initial timeline the Celtics gave us. And so it's no shock that he's hitting a lot of the benchmarks that he's supposed to in terms of recovering. The Celtics have been really optimistic about his return from the very outset. Rob, very optimistic about getting back out there on the floor. And again, he's just such a game changer for them. I mean, he is such a game changer with his versatility, his basketball IQ, the fact that he's communicating on a level that we had not seen prior to this season. Things align themselves in such a way where the Celtics look very much like a juggernaut when he's out there on the floor. And certainly what we've seen is a team that has adapted to not having one of your big guns available. But because they've been able to still find ways to win, it makes you think that when he does come back, they could be potentially even more dominant. So if you're Brooklyn, your thinking has to be, we need to get up on this series as quick as we can, because if we get in a hole and we got to play catch up, they got the closer. They got the closer who could be back by game 6. And they don't want that smoke. Kevin Durant Kevin Durant and Kyrie are two of the greatest players this game has ever seen. But Robert Williams is young. He's spry. He knows what the hell he's doing. And if he's healthy enough to play, he's balling out. He's going to be a problem. And our good friend BDB, Bruce Brown, look, you let him try to get into that paint with Rob around and see what happens. Look, ping pong, that right off the glass. Right off the glass.
Well, I feel like I think you have to save Robert from himself. Robert's not a durable guy. Okay, throughout his career, he has struggled with injuries. He has not dealt great with playing in pain. Okay, so you have to take that into account. If you can bring him back, and he's not risking his future, he's not playing on one leg, and you get him short spurts, I think it's okay to bring him back for a potential game 6, or who knows, that might be a game to close out the series, or that's going to be a game to try to take it to 7. So I'm not banking on seeing Robert Williams in this series. I just think the Celtics are going to be cautious with him. Now, I think the Milwaukee series is more like it. You'll get a break after this series, I'm sure a couple of days, and then give him more healing time. Who knows what is going on in those workouts. It sounds like, from all we hear and all that, it's the talk is that he's responded well. He's running up and, doing one-on-one things. He's, who knows when he'll get to practice. Maybe he'll get to practice sometime in the next week or so or whatever. But I think if you can win without him, you don't throw him out there on one leg. This is your future. And this is a guy who has not dealt in the past. This is not Willis Reed. Look it up if you don't know the reference. This is not some dude who run out on one leg. Run out on one leg and give you all he can. This is a guy who's not had a great history of dealing great with pain. Okay, and he has played in pain. He just gets pained a lot. Okay, so I'm not going to say he's soft. I'm going to say he's just not great. He's had numerous injuries, especially with the lower extremities. So if I'm the Celtics, I make triple sure, quadruple sure he's ready. You put him through one of those extensive workouts. If he makes it through where he's jumping and all that, because remember, let's look at other people. James Wiseman. Now, they both tore the meniscus. Obviously, Wiseman seems to be way more extensive, but he played a couple of G League games. They thought he was ready. He was supposed to help this year. Remember, the Warriors were like, oh, when we get Clay and Wiseman back, and we're going to be unstoppable. Yeah. Well, it ain't worked with Wiseman. Wiseman's knee started swelling, and they put him on the shelf for the year. So he's going to miss his whole season with a meniscus tear. Now, Roberts might have been a neater tear, and a simple tear to repair it. So it sounds like he got really lucky with the meniscus tear, but you don't want to throw him out there and suddenly he's got chronic knee issues. So be cautious if you're the Celtics. If he's ready, then he's ready. You know, we've seen people. We saw Rajon Rondo several years ago come back from a dislocated elbow. I mean, but that's Rondo. Rondo's a special guy in terms of dealing with pain. Like, he don't feel things. But Robert Williams, different case. Be cautious. If he's ready, the doctor's clear him, he says he's fine, put him out there. But other than that, take your time.
I agree. On the opposite end of the floor, we have another person who hasn't played for a little bit longer for their team. I'm talking about Ben Simmons, who we haven't seen play a professional basketball game since June 20th of 2021. That's an interesting stat as well, Gary. But overall, there's still speculation that he could possibly return for the playoffs. He posted on Wednesday on his Instagram a picture of his sneakers, and ESPN felt the need to post that on YouTube. So there's a lot of speculation. Do you think he'll make a big impact? That's the most important question. If he were to return for this team, considering he hasn't played in a while.
Well, I do think the Nets are playing possum with this. We just have no idea. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
The Nets are not going to be like, oh yeah, he's playing Tuesday.
Actually, he's active.
They're not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
They're going to suddenly day a game. One of the big news breakers is going to break that he's participating in shoot around and he's available. That's what's going to happen. They're being very private about his workouts, But a back thing, I don't expect much from Ben Simmons. I don't make it. I don't make this his presence there. I just think he hasn't played in 7 months. This is the NBA. Okay, you cannot run out there after not playing in 7-8 months and just suddenly play 40 minutes. You're not doing that.
Yeah.
Don't work that way.
Basketball game shape.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you play 8 minutes, then you play 12, then you play 16, then you might play 24. Like, that's how it goes. Now, if the Nets were to win this series, would I say he'd come back in the next one? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But this series, not having played in 7 months, no, guys got to get back in basketball shape, especially a guy coming off a back injury, especially a guy who fought with his mental health and his confidence the last time we saw him on the floor. Like, he's not, let's be honest, can he hit free throws? What happens when the defense leaves him open for a 15-foot jumper? Like, all that. This is not someone this is not Kevin Durant, where you knew when he stepped on the floor, he's going to get buckets. Ben ain't about buckets. Is Ben athletically ready to stop anyone defensively? Is he going to stop Tatum defensively? Like, after 7 months off the floor, that's asking a lot. So I don't put a lot of faith into this Ben Simmons thing. I just think that they're playing possum and that maybe he might return, but I don't think they have faith in him at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. That the lack of faith that you touched on, Gary, goes both ways, not only with the organization and Ben put in that position, but Ben being comfortable in that position. I just don't think he's ready to give them what they need. And if you're Brooklyn, you got to ask yourself, are we investing in Ben Simmons for the moment, or are we looking at this long term? Because if you're looking at this as a quick fix, you throw him out there and you just let whatever happens. But because of the length of his contract, because of to be candid, he ain't done squat. You don't risk putting him in a situation where he could do significant harm to himself and the team. I worry about that for him. And we didn't even get into the whole mental aspect of it, because we know fans can be extremely cruel. And considering the fact that Ben ain't played a damn game all season, and you're going to throw him out there in the playoffs?
In Boston? Against Boston?
Come on.
The most notorious fans there are.
Right. You're just asking him to do something that I just don't think he's ready to handle at this point.
Yeah. No, those are really fair points. But what everyone's been waiting for is the end of season awards. We touched on it last week, but now is the time for you to make your pick. Are you ready?
Let's go, Guadalupe.
Wait, you gotta let the music play first. All right, it's game time. And the first question, this is going to be a rapid fire style tournament. You have to say yes or no to the players and the potential awards that I am going to give them, I guess. Now I'm part of it. So Jayson Tatum, do you give him the MVP award? Top 5, at least top 5 in voting, yes or no?
Top 5, yes. MVP, not happening. Having a good season, but ain't having that good a season.
Gary?
I voted Tatum 5th for MVP.
Okay. Do you mind sharing who your top 4 were?
Yes,
it better not be Carmelo Anthony.
Stop it. Don't do that.
I voted for him for comeback player of the year, most improved, defensive player of the year.
Every category.
On all my back, all NBA, all defense. I even voted on rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year.
Oh.
Anyway, I voted Embiid as my MVP.
Okay.
I voted Jokic 2nd, Antetokounmpo 3rd, Devin Booker 4th.
Love it.
Why Embiid? Shit. It was just a damn, not a hunch. It could be split into thirds.
It really could.
I mean, there's an argument for all 3. I just thought playing by himself on that damn team in Philadelphia without a lot of help, with Harden out there drinking 40s and stuff in the offseason, and on the night before games and partying with his peoples and all that. Harden not being in shape. Matisse Thybulle not vaccinated. Ben Simmons gone. Like Embiid,
carrying the team on his back,
on his damn shoulder.
Yeah.
And Embiid has done great things. Jokic, you could argue with him that 2,000, 1,000, or 1,500, 1,000 is amazing. Giannis has put up MVP numbers. There's no bad argument for either of the 3. So I just took Embiid because I just felt like, one, it might be his time to win it. I just think he stayed healthy. Remember, I was, stay healthy. He stayed healthy.
Yeah.
Okay, he stepped up. He's gotten out of his slumps. He's not had any issues. He has carried that team on his back. And there's a lot of drama in Philadelphia, a lot of changes that might happen if they lose in the first round to Toronto. So I got to give Embiid my vote.
And I'm kind of giving away who I think should be the defensive player of the year, but I think that same argument would go for Marcus Smart when people talk about the seasons that they've had, Joel Embiid and Marcus Smart, respectively. They've done a lot for their teams, but they've always had other people that just inched before them when talk about the winning the award itself. So Marcus Smart, that's the next question. Do you think he'll finally win the defensive player of the year this season?
It's got to happen this year. If it doesn't happen this year, it's not going to happen.
That's how I feel about Embiid.
I think it will because it's so wide open, and you're going to have a push from Mikal Bridges. I know a lot of people are really pushing him in Phoenix. Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be in there. Rudy Gobert in the conversation. But to me, Marcus, he's the most impactful defender on the best team defensively. And what I think has hurt him more than anything else, to be candid with you, is Rob Williams. It's hard to ignore the impact that Rob Williams has had on this Celtics defense when he's out there with Marcus. And as great as Marcus is defensively, Robert Williams does a couple of things. He passes the eye test when you watch him play. And at the end of the night, you start going through all the different numbers that he posts and the analytics. He gets it done that way as well. So the time that Robert has been on the sideline has actually, I think, enhanced Marcus's chances of winning the award, because if Robert Williams was still out on the floor, I think he would be at worst top 3 finisher. But Marcus, I think Marcus has a good shot at actually getting it this year. I really do.
Gary, yes or no?
Yeah, I voted for Marcus.
Yeah. Ime Udoka has been a big conversation when you talk about Coach of the Year. That's probably one of the tougher conversations this season. Do you have him as potentially winning that award?
I don't. No. And for a couple of reasons. One, I think Memphis head coach Taylor Jenkins has done an incredible job with an incredibly young team that is the second best team in the Western Conference. So and he's done it for long stretches without his best player. So I would give him the edge. And to be candid with you, this is the award that if I were a coach, I would never want to win this damn award, because this is the kiss of death. You are going to be fired damn near 2 to 3 years after you win this award. So if I'm Ime, I'm good stacking these 50 wins every year and having someone else bring home that hardware, because that hardware is one step closer to the unemployment line if you are an NBA head coach.
I voted Monty Williams, and I voted Taylor Jenkins, and I voted Ime third. I think Monty, starting with the bubble, when they went undefeated in the bubble, and then last year when he made a push, this is the Phoenix Suns, folks. Like, this is the last time they've been to the finals before then was 1993 with Charles Barkley, Dan Marley, and
when
those
Kwani
guys.
was born.
Yeah, exactly. When Kwani was like 3 months old when they were in the final. Last time.
Yeah, really.
In the finals. And, you know, Mary J, who was dropping her second album or whatever. You know, and so and we was going to take our girlfriends and watch Menace to Society. Anyway,
I do admire. Can I just say I admire your encyclopedic knowledge of what happened every year? Because I barely remember what I did last week, but you're spot on with it.
I'm a man of the 90s. I'm a man of the 90s. I'll just say that the 90s was. I had a good time in the 90s.
You remember the
90s. I was getting in.
All right.
I was getting in the 90s. Anyway, so to me, I voted for Monty as just a overall, Taylor Jenkins, great choice, what he's done with Memphis this year. But the fact that Phoenix came on back, won 65 games, set records, franchise records, they ran it back. And they didn't take a step back. They took a step forward. They smashed fools. They won without Chris Paul in the lineup for a month. They won without Devin Booker. They have a system in place. This is the Phoenix Suns. I just don't people think you'll understand that. Phoenix has never really been this good. They were for stretches, when Barkley was there and a little bit before then. They had good quality teams, but never as good as, let's say, the Lakers. Now they run in the West. That's coaching, that system. And what Monty Williams has been through in his life, losing his wife in that tragic car accident with 5 children, having to be, raised, all of what is man of faith. You couldn't think of a perfect role model for how we should conduct our lives and how you come back from that. So, he deserves it. I'm going to put it on what he is able to overcome and what he's done, given a second chance to coach. Remember, it didn't work out in New Orleans because he had, always injured AD and all that. They didn't give him a real long chance to really see it through in New Orleans. So, Coach of the Year, Monty Williams.
Okay.
Finally, this was probably the longest rapid fire anyone has ever listened to, but it's okay because I love that you guys explained why you picked the people that you did. Robert Williams, all NBA defense, yes or no?
No. He's going to, and I'm going to tell you why. He's going to he should be there, but he's not going to get it because typically when guys are on the cusp of getting it for the first time, it's almost always a year deferred because the way that team's going to be put together, if you're looking at centers, you're probably going to have Rudy Gobert and Bam Adebayo picked ahead of him at the center position. And I think personally he's had a better year than Gobert. I think Gobert, Gobert, for me this year, way overrated. Typically, Utah is the top 2, top 3 defense. This year, they barely cracked the top 10. Rob has been the ultimate difference maker when he's been healthy on the best defense in NBA. So he should get one of the teams, but I think he's going to get shafted.
I voted Robert's second team. I think Adebayo, even though he missed time with an injury, I think Adebayo just such a difference maker. He can guard 1 through 5, and he's done it and he's proven it. But Robert deserved all defense, first or second team. I think that he should be on any team. And, now, do you want to compare him to Gobert? Gobert's won 3 in a row, or not 3 in a row, 3 Defensive Players of the Year. The fact is they slip a lot when Gobert's out of the game, but Utah's also blown a lot of big leads. They kind of stumbled to the playoffs as a 5th seed. This is not last year. Utah was the number 1 seed. They were supposed to get to the final. This year, it's starting to erode. There are going to be some major changes. And remember who is running things in Utah is Danny Ainge. And Danny Ainge.
Hey, he's a consultant, Gary.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, sure he is. Danny Ainge does not sit on his hands and watch things happen. He is going to figure out a way to move somebody and bring his guys in there and try to change things up because Utah's running on a treadmill right now. So I had to, in as much as Gobert is a difference maker, I just think that the fact that they were the 5th seed, they stumbled, they blew a lot of huge leads. That Clippers series, he was exposed because they went small and they couldn't play him. Like, no. So I got Robert Williams on my second team, I believe. I think out of bio, and then I put through Giannis in the first team. I think Giannis is a plus, great defender. But Robert Williams will see his day. And maybe next year will he be a legit defensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah.
There
Rob's
we go.
really good.
Yeah.
Rob's really good.
Hopefully he comes back.
What about the other awards, Kwani? Most improved?
That's all.
Rookie of the year.
You really want to go through all of them?
Well, there's 2 more, Kwani.
Well, go for it. Who's your most improved? I didn't have any Celtics on there, so.
No, they didn't. Yeah,
Grant is the most improved.
Somebody might vote, give Grant. I think Grant will get votes.
Get a few nods. Yeah.
Yeah, Grant will get votes for that. I had Jordan Poole, the Golden State Warriors. Who's turned into an outstanding scorer, kind of the third guy, maybe him and Clay of that big trio, or quartet. I just thought he has taken a major step forward. And I had second Anthony Simons from Portland. He missed 26 games, but he has really taken a step forward. But yeah, those are my 2 most improved. And I think I had Tyler Hero as my 6th man. And Rookie of the Year, I took Scotty Barnes.
See, for most improved, I'm with you with Jordan Poole. I mean, adding Poole to the Splash Brothers, can't go wrong with that.
Oh, pun intended? That's not, wait a minute. Is that new? Why have I not heard that before? Wow, okay, continue. I was
waiting for that.
Grandma, that was accidental.
Right. He's like, I've been thinking about this.
Yeah, I knew.
Okay, all right.
I did. Yeah, I did that.
I saw that live from half court.
Oh, whatever.
I saw that from half court. No, for Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go with Evan Mobley. I just think that when he was healthy, there was not a better rookie in the NBA. And Scotty Barnes had a hell of a year. But I just think Evan Mobley was a little bit more impactful. And the last one, what was the other one? 6th man? Yeah. 6th man. It's not even close, I don't think, this year. I mean, Tyler Hero, I think he led all 6 men in scoring average 20+ points a game.
Yeah.
And I just think he falls in line with what we've seen other great 6 men, guys like Lou Williams, guys, Jordan,
Jamal Crawford.
Guys that come off the bench, but at the end of the night, they're on the floor when it matters most. He's been that guy for the Heat.
Well, those are the awards. Congratulations to all our winners. We will be mailing you absolutely nothing. Just wait for the real awards to come through.
And now up next, we've got...
Well, that's a wrap on the regular season. I'm looking forward to game 1 against the Nets. That's going to be at home for the Celtics on Sunday. So then we can recap that game and look forward to the rest of the season. I think that'll be a good benchmark as to how these teams look against each other. It's exciting. Playoffs.
Let's get it.
So before we wrap up, are there any updates you'd like to share with the class?
No. We're good.
Updates?
We're good. We're just excited about the playoffs. I just want to get to the playoffs.
There's always some things cooking, but yeah, just focused on covering this team. Obviously, a very exciting time for Celtics fans. This could be the year they do something special, but there's a lot of obstacles in their way. But I do think that they can play with any of the teams and reach the finals. I think they're capable.
Yeah. I'm Kwani A. Lunis, Sherrod Blakely, and Gary Washburn. This is the A-List podcast. Come back next week for some playoff reactions.
Playoffs?
Playoffs?